You know, there are a lot of subjects that I would love to be able to cover in depth on this channel. So many things and neat ideas that could really go into creating a wildly financially successful picture for ourselves and for others. Unfortunately though, I'm just one man, and I'm not always able to get to quite as many of those concepts as I would like to, as quickly as I would like to. So, in the spirit of just tackling a bunch of random ideas all in one go, today I'm going to be talking about 5 different things that you can do to supercharge your finances. Hey everyone, Daniel here, and welcome to Next Level Life, a channel where you can learn all about investing, debt, retirement, and many other financial education topics besides, because let's face it, the schools aren't going to teach it for us. So if any of those topics sound interesting to you, or if you want to learn how to better handle your money and have more financial freedom, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell next to my name to be notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to further support the growth of this channel, you can check out some of the links I've left down in the description below, which includes a 30-day free trial of Audible and 2 free audiobooks of your choice, as well as a list of some books I'd recommend checking out with your free trial. Or you can share this video with a friend and leave a comment below letting me know what topics you'd like me to cover in future videos. So in the interest of keeping this video under 20 minutes, I won't be going quite as in-depth as I normally would do to any of these ideas today, although I will be covering many of them in future videos. So I encourage you to use this video as a kind of jumping off point for yourself. If any of the ideas that come up today intrigue you, definitely look into them more, talk to your financial advisor about them, research other people's perspectives on the subject, and figure out how to best apply them to your own situation. But with that out of the way, let's get started. The first thing you can do to supercharge your finances is to, if you haven't already, set up a zero-based budget, also sometimes known as a zero-sum budget. Most of you are probably already familiar with this type of budget, and I know a lot of you who follow Dave Ramsey as well as this channel know exactly what this is because it's the budget he recommends. But for those not in the know, real quick, a zero-based budget is a budget where every dollar you bring in is accounted for, whether through expenses, investments, giving, or some other means, it doesn't matter. Every dollar has a job before the month even begins. If you don't know how to set this budget up for yourself, there are tons of budgeting templates out there that you can use. Just Google zero-sum budget template and you'll get a bunch of them that come up for you. Or you can try out one of the apps that use this method of budgeting. Of course, Dave Ramsey's app Every Dollar being one of those apps, but there may be others that you find you like better. But the reason why this is so important, and the reason why I recommend everybody uses this budget at least once, is because unlike some of the other budgeting methods that I've covered on this channel and will be covering on this channel in the future, the zero-sum budget is very good at helping you to figure out not only where you're overspending, but also in finding areas where you didn't even know you were spending money in the first place. This is because since every dollar has a job before the month begins, there's no wiggle room, there's no mystery in the budget. If you have too much month at the end of the money, it's either because you overspent in some category, you didn't earn as much as you were thinking you would, or you simply spent money in a category that you didn't think of before the month began when you were originally setting up the budget. If that's the case, then it forces you to go back and look at your expenses in depth to see what those unaccounted for expenses were, and it forces you to think of whether or not those expenses were actually needed. Finding these, for lack of a better phrase, phantom expenses can be a huge money saver for a lot of people, especially if they've never done a budget like this before. On the other hand, if you overspent in some category, then it forces you to look deeper into that category and figure out whether or not you can cut that expense down a bit. Ideally, this leads you to thinking about your priorities and what you really value spending money on, which of course is ultimately what the budget is trying to teach you in the first place, as I've covered in previous videos. Sometimes you'll say to yourself, yes, I do need this expense and it does need to be this amount. And if that's the case, that's fine. You simply adjust your budget in other categories to make sure that you're still able to make ends meet and reach your goals. Other times, you'll find that there are in fact ways to cut that expense down a little, or maybe even a lot depending on the expense, while still maintaining the standard of life that's important to you, which also can be a huge money saver, especially if the issue you found happens to be on a big line item like housing, transportation, or debt. One thing I would like to add to this though is that cutting down on an expense doesn't necessarily mean spending less on something. At least not always. This can be particularly true with something like housing, for example. Many people have taken advantage of various rent hacking techniques, which I'll be covering in more depth in future videos, in order to lower their effective housing costs. Rent hacking can take on many forms, but the basic idea is that you lower your effective housing costs by doing one of the following things. Either splitting the bills somehow, say by living with a roommate like a lot of us did in college, either by design or through subletting, or by using your living space to generate some sort of an income, like people who put their homes up for rent on places like Airbnb do. Those people can then put that money towards their housing costs instead of having to pay for it entirely out of their salaries. But like I said, I'll be covering this topic in more depth in future videos, but that's the gist of the idea. A second thing that you can do to supercharge your finances is to take full advantage of tax-sheltered investments. This is quite an obvious one, I know, but that doesn't make it any less relevant or important. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average household income before taxes in 2017, which is the most recent year we have finalized data for as of this writing, is about $73,500 per year. That would either put someone in the 12% or 22% tax brackets, depending of course on whether they're filing as a single, head of household, or married filing jointly. With the contribution limits of the 401k and IRA being about $19,000 per year and $6,000 per year for the individual respectively, there are potentially thousands of dollars in taxes to be saved. And that's not even to mention the other tax-advantaged accounts like HSAs, ESAs, 529 plans, and a bunch of others that may or may not be relevant to someone's situation. But those accounts are also for future videos. I'm just going to focus on the IRA and 401k today since they're pretty much universally applicable. Let's say, for instance, a married couple making that $73,500 a year maxed out one 401k and one IRA each year. In doing so, they would be lowering their tax bill by $25,000 and saving roughly $3,000 on their federal income taxes. That's a savings of about $250 a month on taxes alone, and that's not to mention the fact that the investments they made will grow tax deferred. Or they could go the other way and invest in a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k if they had that option, pay the taxes now, and then save on taxes down the road. Many would argue that with the tax rates being as low as they are right now compared to where they've been historically, that might be the better way to go, but I'll leave that to you and your financial advisor to talk about for your situation. And of course, we don't know what those savings down the road will be if they use the Roth because, of course, we don't know what the tax brackets will be when they retire and decide to take that money out. But there will be savings one way or the other. If they really wanted to, they could even mix and match the two by putting money into a traditional IRA or 401k now and then taking advantage of the Roth conversion ladder down the road, which is another topic I'll have to cover here soon. But whatever the case may be, the point is that's a decent chunk of savings each year, whether on the front end or the back end. And since the savings is through the act of investing, over time, thanks to compound interest, it can have an enormous effect on their financial picture. Because at $25,000 a year and an average 8% annualized rate of return over the long haul, which is what the market has historically done, they would have over $1 million saved in just 19 years, over $2 million saved in just 26 years, and over $6.75 million saved in 40 years. The third way that you can supercharge your finances is through education. And I'm not talking about education in the go to college and get a degree sense. That certainly can help if you're getting a good degree that'll get you a good paying job. It certainly is one way to go, but it's not the way I'm talking about here specifically. I'm talking about seeking out knowledge that you will be able to apply to your life and your specific financial situation, ideally in the here and now. My personal favorite way to do this is through books, which is why in every single video I'm talking about Amazon's Audible service. Because seriously, I cannot stress this enough. None of us are born with the know-how to be financially successful. Some of us may have great mentors growing up. I was very fortunate myself to have a dad that did study finances and passed that knowledge on to me at a young age. But even with that, had I not gone out and searched for other knowledge, other insights, and different ideas for myself that either he didn't know about or that maybe he knew about but was never able to explain to me in a way that it clicked, I wouldn't be where I am today. I would almost certainly be more well off than the paycheck-to-paycheck life that a lot of people are unfortunately living because my dad did give me that strong foundation, but I wouldn't be as far along as I am today. So again, I can't stress it enough. Seek out as much as you possibly can, whether that's in the form of blogs, podcasts, or videos, or in the form of books and audiobooks, or even seminars at your local library or other places. Whatever works best for you, just find something so that you can get those insights, get those ideas, and apply them to your life. Because listening and learning from others is so valuable. There's a great quote that sums it all up better than I could. It's from Woodrow Wilson, and he said, "I not only use all the brains I have, but all that I can borrow." Be like that. Learn from others. It'll not only get you much further on your journey, much faster than you would have on your own, but it'll probably save you from making a few crucial mistakes that you would have otherwise made along the way as well. A fourth thing that you can do to supercharge your finances is to start a side hustle. And your side hustle doesn't have to be big or extravagant or cost a lot of money either. Realistically speaking, for most of us, it doesn't even have to make you a ton of money to be a huge difference maker in your life. Although, of course, the more you make, the bigger a difference it'll be. But even taking home something like $500 a month can still make an astounding difference in your life, even if it probably wouldn't be enough for you to quit your day job. Just say that you applied that $500 a month to a mortgage loan. Maybe you recently bought a house and you have a 30-year mortgage loan of $200,000 at 4% interest, which wouldn't be that far off from typical nowadays. That $500 a month put towards your principal would nearly cut your time to paying off that mortgage in half, from 30 years all the way down to 15 years and 5 months. And it would save you over $75,000 in interest. That's an average of over $400 a month in savings over the course of that time of the loan, which is not half bad considering it came from just a $500 a month side hustle income. Or maybe you don't have much of any debt to speak of, or you just decided you wanted to go the investing route. $500 a month is $6,000 a year. That on its own is enough to fully fund a Roth IRA, and Roth IRAs, of course, grow tax-free. If we assume an 8% average annual rate of return over the long haul, the Roth IRA would grow to over $100,000 in 11 years, over $250,000 in 19 years, $500,000 in 26 years, and over $1 million in 35 years, all available to you tax-free. One way or another, that's quite a big difference if you ask me. A fifth way that you can supercharge your finances is a little more unconventional, and it's to figure out some dreamlines for yourself. So much of the time when we've tried to budget and save our money or invest, we end up falling off the wagon pretty darn quickly. It happens to the best of us, and no matter how charged up on adrenaline and motivated we get after reading a good book on money or watching a video, listening to a personal finance expert talk about how to change our financial lives, it never seems to be enough to end up panning out the way we had hoped. Maybe it's because we feel we're not making very much progress, or maybe it's because the market tanks, something outside of our control, and we panic. Or maybe we have some unexpected medical bills that come up. Whatever the case may be, we hit these roadblocks and it can become very discouraging. Sometimes so much so that we stop trying to change our financial lives for the better entirely. But why? How could we go from being so motivated to change our financial lives to giving up so quickly? Even something like those unexpected medical bills. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, it really sucks, and it can set us back quite a ways. And yet, there are some people out there who manage to get through those kind of roadblocks and achieve financial independence. So what are we missing? What do those people have that we don't have? Well, it could be different depending on your situation, but I think for a lot of us, what we're really missing during those times is our reason to change our financial lives. Not just a reason, our reason. The one that really speaks to us. What we're missing is what Tim Ferriss calls our Dreamline in his book, The 4-Hour Workweek. A Dreamline is anything that you either want to have, want to be, or want to do, generally by a specific point in time. And it's all unique to us. So how do we find our Dreamlines? Ferriss recommends creating 2 timelines, one for 6 months and the other for 12 months, though you can mess with the times a little bit if you want. On each, list up to 5 things you dream of having, including but not limited to material wants such as a house, car, or clothes. 5 things you dream of being. Be a great cook, be fluent in Chinese, be a blogger, and 5 things you dream of doing. Visiting Thailand, tracing your roots overseas, whatever. Write them down in that order. And don't worry about how what you're writing down will be accomplished. That can all be figured out later with research, education, and proper planning, much of which can be found on this channel and others like it. For now, just focus on the dreamlines and trust the process. If you're having trouble coming up with ideas, ask yourself, what would you do day to day if you had $100 million in the bank? If you're still having trouble, fill in the 5 doing spots with the following answers. Where is one place you would like to visit? What is one thing you'd want to do before you die? A sort of memory of a lifetime. What is one thing you would want to do daily if money were no object? What is one thing you'd want to do weekly if money were no object? And what's one thing you've always wanted to learn? Figuring out these doing examples may help you to decide what you may want to have and what you may want to be, since they're usually fairly related. And if you want to learn more about Dreamlines, I highly recommend you check out Tim Ferriss's book. There'll be a link in the description. But the benefit of thinking about Dreamlines in this specific detail is that it forces you to figure out what things you really want to have, which will help you better prioritize and allocate funds in your budget, as well as what you really want to do and be, in addition to getting you very excited about the possibilities. And I'd recommend you actually go a step further than Ferriss talks about, because more than that, if you're able to get a taste of one of your Dreamlines, even if it is on a smaller scale than you were originally envisioning, you can really help keep yourself motivated to continue making and saving money as you run towards your goals, even during the tough times. And if done right, you'll naturally find yourself researching different ways to live your Dreamlines in as affordable a manner as possible. And more often than not, you'll find that when you're actively looking for ways to make your dream a reality, when you're open to all the possibilities out there to help you achieve your goals, it usually ends up costing quite a bit less than you would have originally thought going in. Not always, but most of the time. So if you haven't tried it already, that would be a good way to supercharge your finances, probably for a long time to come. So come up with your Dreamlines and try to find a way to test out 1 or 2 of them, if at all possible. Sometimes you may find that a Dreamline you had wasn't really what you expected it to be, and that's okay, you can take it off your list. But eventually you'll stumble onto something that is so awesome that you will run through walls to do it again and again and again. And with that kind of sustained motivation and desire, I promise you, you'll find it a lot more possible, if not probable, to become financially successful and have a really enjoyable life, all at the same time. It is truly a night and day difference from the place where most of us are probably approaching our finances right now. But that'll do it for me today. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell next to my name so you'll be notified of all my future uploads. I generally upload every single Monday, and if you have a friend that would be interested in this kind of content, be sure to share it with them. Let's really get this information out there and start our own financial revolution.